بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله الهداة الطيبين الطاهرين. Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There has been recent interest shown by academics and the media alike on what had been termed political Islam. Indeed, the Arab Spring has raised the question of the possibility of the emergence of an Islamic state, whether in Tunisia, Egypt, or anywhere else. And before then, we had the so-called global war on terror, which sought to address the threat, so-called threat, of political Islam. However, a lot of the movements that we see amongst us today throughout the Middle East draw their inspiration or motivation from the development of Islamic political thought throughout the 20th century. So how does this relate to both you and I? Well, first, the idea of Islam playing a significant role in politics needs to be discussed both on the theoretical and practical levels. And second, are all these phenomena the same? Do they adhere to the same principles? And if not, are we obliged to act upon this? So what is it that we need to do? Well, initially there are three things that need to be discussed. The first is the need for a definition. What does political Islam mean? Or indeed, is this a useful term to use? Second is the need to contextualize. Are all these theories and movements the same? And this is inshallah where we will look at the thought of Shaheed Muhammad Baaqar's Sadr in this field. And third, what does this all mean to us as Iraqis, as Muslims, and as human beings? So the first thing we said we need to do is to define. In politics, they teach us the first thing you do is to start with a definition, because a lot of the time the problem lies within the terminology used. Take for example the term third world. We all know it to mean developing countries. However, we ignore the negative connotations third has with regards to first and second. Also, without sounding like a feminist, why do we say mankind when we mean both men and women? All of these terms play a subconscious role on how our arguments play out. So what is the problem with political Islam, you may ask? Well, the first thing this does is that it tries to draw a distinction between Islam and politics. It wants to discuss Islam as a political ideology rather than a religion or theology. Now, I'm no expert, but my understanding of Islam is not that it's simply the true religion, but also that it is a complete religion. Islam doesn't merely concern itself with acts of worship, otherwise the majority of the verses of the Quran would have been about worship, however they are not. Islam is a religion of interactions, how one interacts with its Lord and society. Interactions, funny enough, that's what politics is about as well. Therefore, by nature, Islam is political. And thus when we say Islamic political thought or Islamism, not political Islam, we mean a form of instrumentalization of Islam by individuals, groups, and organizations that pursue political objectives. Therefore, from the beginning, we can disregard all those that carry out heinous acts in the name of Islam. They have no political objectives, no political goals. They are by definition terrorists, and it is our responsibility to clarify this distinction. We need only concern ourselves with the ideas that adhere to Islamic political thought. And without taking too much of your time, I wanted to delve right into Shaheed Muhammad Baaqar Sadr's notion of Wilayat al-Umm. On the theoretical side, this can be contrasted with Wilayat al-Faqih. Whereas Ayatollah Khomeini demonstrated that the governance lied within the jurist, Shaheed Muhammad Baaqar Sadr extracted two concepts from the holy text in relation to governance: man as heir or trustee of God, and prophets as witnesses. Al-Sadr demonstrated that governance is a right given to the whole of humanity, and explained it to be a commitment given from God to the human people, tend to the globe and administer human affairs. This was a key advancement of Islamic political thought, as Sayyid al-Sadr stated that the authority of a government in an Islamic state derives from the people. While the two functions of governance and testimony or supervision were united during the times of the prophets, the two diverged during the occultation of the 12th Imam, so that governance returned to the people or the Ummah and supervision to the scholars. hence the term Wilayat al-Ummah, or rule of the people. And so when we look at in Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to the angels about the creation of Prophet Adam alayhi salam, he says that I am creating on this earth a representative. This is in reference to Adam being not the first prophet, but rather the first human being. And so this representative, this role of being the representatives of Allah on earth, continues throughout humanity. Therefore, on a practical level, this doesn't mean seizing political power, but rather we need to begin by building our Islamic political understanding. How did Shaheed al-Sadr do this? Well, for one, he set up the Islamic Da'wah Party. Back in the 1950s, the threat wasn't Saddam or any form of government reprisal, but rather it was a spread of anti-Islamic thought. And how did they combat this? Through education and through debate and discussions. Because Shaheed al-Sadr showed them that their goal wasn't seizing power. In fact, he had already demonstrated to them that they already held power. All we have to do is utilize it. He gave hope to millions, and a testament to his greatness is that his ideas still live with us today. As already mentioned today, his message was one of education, knowledge that remains with us till today, I said. To conclude, what we do learn from all of this is one. First, we have seen that there are those that seek to disrespect Islam, whether this is in the guise of Islamophobia or violent extremism. And it is our duty to speak up against this. Second, it is wrong to think that Islam is separated from politics. Islam addresses everything in life, especially on how we need to interact with one another. And third, if there's anything Shaheed al-Sadr has taught us, it is that we need to go back to grassroots politics. And to all the youth sitting amongst the audience, ignore the fact that you feel distant from your politicians. At the end of the day, you hold the source of their power. So start acting upon that responsibility. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.